And we are live. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm good. Do you prefer Andrew or Shanks?
Typically just go by my last name, which is Shanks.
Okay, I'm gonna call you Shanks then.
Works for
So,
me.
yeah, while we wait for some people to join and set in and get popcorn and whatever, what time is it for you?
It's 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Are you a morning person?
I am, yeah.
Oh,
So, like I was kind of saying earlier, my daughter got me up at like 4:30, but I usually am up at like 5 or 5:30 anyway, so
wow.
not too bad.
That's great. I'm not a morning person at all. I always have to have coffee with me by this time, and it's like 10:30 for me. So yeah, that's good. That's good that you're a morning person. Hi, Niket. Okay, we're getting people. Hi, Surendra. Yes, I'm doing better after my vacations. Thank you. And I think Megesh is back. Hey, Megesh.
Hey Alex. Hi Andrew.
All right, so you can keep troubleshooting, Megesh. We were having some technical difficulties. Don't worry about it. But then Shanks is going to go ahead and start. But while that's happening, oh, I can actually see your screen now, Megesh. That's
Okay,
good. That works. Awesome.
sure. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so why don't you both tell me about yourselves and how did you get to be MuleSoft mentors? How did you start? How did you get into Salesforce or MuleSoft? What happened?
Yeah, I can start. Um, I worked at a small startup back in, I guess I started in 2017. And I was doing kind of support engineer work and just trying to find a new outlet, a new career path. And we were using Salesforce and didn't really have a strong admin. So I was able to kind of like tinker with it and then started building out our support cloud, or I guess, yeah, service cloud. Switched us from intercom to service cloud. And then, it's like, hey, so now that I've built some stuff in Salesforce, you guys will make me like an admin, right? And they're like, no. So, went and found a job where you get kind of the proper admin title, learned a bunch about flows, stayed at that org for about a year, and now I work at the Oregon Humane Society. So it's a large nonprofit here in Oregon, and I've been there just over a year as kind of a solo admin slash the only person that knows much of anything about Salesforce. But I've been building a lot of automation, and then kind of came into MuleSoft around November because we purchased the automation package in order to connect to our third-party vendors. And so Mukesh has been helpful as I also have been starting out, helping me troubleshoot a few things and kind of get up and running.
Oh, that's awesome. So welcome to MuleSoft then.
Thank you. It's been a great journey.
Nice. What about you, Megesh?
So for me, it started in 2019 when I heard first time about MuleSoft. So MuleSoft had actually came to our campus just to tell us about like what MuleSoft is all about, and they had also given us a training. So unfortunately, I didn't clear that out, but then in 2021, eventually I cleared it out. But the opportunities were not there, and luckily I was actually got a job as a Salesforce developer in a small startup, which eventually got acquired by one of the big MNCs. So in 2022 second half, I wanted to try something new, and the first thing I did was I enrolled myself as a MuleSoft mentor. But that too, after a year of break, initially of the first event which I attended was MuleSoft Mumbai Forum, where Dave and also we had Salesforce India CEO and everyone attending the event. So one of the application which Dave had proposed over there was between integration between MuleSoft, Slack, and Salesforce. So I was fascinated with it. I built out the entire application, and from that day, I thought like, let's get started in Salesforce. So eventually, within a week or so, I enrolled myself as MuleSoft mentor, and then the timing is already great. Like Andrew started in November, I too started in November, the MuleSoft Composer part, and then me and Andrew are active in the community forum as well, answering all the type of questions around.
That's awesome. So you don't even have a year and you're already helping in the community. I love that. I really appreciate it. And you're doing a live stream. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And we're getting a lot of people. Hello, Alex Shanks. Hello, everyone. Hi. Alrighty. So I guess it's already, yeah, we can get started. So, what are we going to learn today, Shanks and Magesh?
Awesome. Yeah, so I will cover a bit about Salesforce flows and automation, just kind of at a high level, and then show a few examples of kind of what it can do and how it works. And then I will pass to Magesh, who will cover more of the Salesforce Composer aspect of things, since he is way more knowledgeable there than I am. And then we were going to talk about a project that I'm working on to connect to one of our vendors, where I use both Salesforce Flow and Composer flows in order to kind of get all of the data at specific times.
Sounds perfect for me. All right, let's get started.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's move this over here. I'll go ahead and share the screen. All right. Great. And you guys can see my screen all right?
Yes.
Awesome. So as you can kind of see, I've built out quite a lot of flows, I guess 318 to be specific so far. I'm in the process of like taking larger flows where you have like multiple things happening and just breaking them into like individual things. They kind of run a little bit faster, but that's a little aside. So whenever we are talking about flows, there are specific types of flows. You know, most popular are going to be screen flows. This you will kind of like put on your, you know, user screens to kind of walk them through specific things that you need and want. So that way they can kind of input the data properly, you know, or have access to certain things that they wouldn't otherwise on the page layout because it's just too much. So I'm getting kind of more experienced with this, which is always fun. We have scheduled trigger flows, which example of that would be this. So I have a flow that started back on May 4th. It runs at 10 p.m. and it runs on a daily basis. So you can have it just run a single time. You can have it run weekly. There's lots of ways to kind of manipulate this. So like if I say daily, but let's say I only wanted to run like during the week and not the weekends, you can make checkbox fields and have that be your entry criteria. So for me, my entry criteria is that, you know, I am getting a specific record. So for me, it's this custom object and custom fields. And I created this record that I want to get in my scheduled flow. So as long as it pulls that record, then it will execute and update this specific field. And this is just a nice little update Salesforce records component. They also have auto launch flows. These are usually triggered by Apex, which I do not know much about. That'll be more Magesh's wheelhouse, or other kind of flows. So I have flows that will run, and if an error hits, it goes to a subflow, which is an auto launched no trigger flow. Let's see if I can actually find one of these really quick. No, not that one. But basically it just runs and we'll kind of have a, say here, actually it'd be on this. So you can do a fault path on one of these DML statements. So an update or create or delete. And then in the fault path, I have a subflow that I say path to Shanks, and then I put in just the body of the email. And then what ends up happening is it will go and run the subflow, this auto launch flow that just sends an email, but I have all of the data points already set. So that way I don't have to go and set these data points in every single flow that I create. So as an example for my auto launched flows, record trigger flow, this is going to be the most popular one. So this will be either a fast field update, which is a before record flow. So one that I've created is fast field updates. This is before save flow, which will run before the record is committed to the database. So you only want to use it for pretty much the record you're updating and not other objects or, emails or anything like that. You want it to just update purely the record that you're saving. And it does it a lot faster because it's not committing to the database and then recommitting after an update. So it doesn't take any of the DML statements, which you only have 150 you can run a minute. So for this example, I have a contact record. Whenever it is created or updated, I have this field that if it equals true, then it will run this flow. And it's a before save flow, so it runs a lot faster. And then I just have an assignment that says, okay, enter the description and then make this checkbox false. It's the same checkbox that equals true in order to run it. And in action, so if you edit this and then just hit save, runs fairly quickly, and then it added this to the description. So this was updated by a before save flow, aka fast field updates. So that is a super effective way. We use it a lot for formatting phone numbers, or if this paid checkbox is true, then mark it like an opportunity is closed won. So it's very much if this, then that kind of happens. For an after save flow, this is kind of the same scenario. Contact record, it's either created or updated. I have a checkbox for after save flow. So this would be actions and related records. So in this example, I'm updating the same record. You wouldn't really want to do that normally. You'll want to use a fast field update. Typically, this would, let's say, create task for if an opportunity is closed won. You want a task for the onboarding specialist to reach out within a day. You want to create a sales rep follow-up 3 months later. You would create those tasks or send out emails or update related objects in the after save flows. And then for this example, like I said, I'm just updating the same record and saying that the description is now updated by an after save flow. So in practice, kind of the same thing. Check my checkbox, and this says a before save flow. Once I save it, it will uncheck the checkbox and then update the description to say it's updated by an after save flow. So it, commits the record and then runs the automation to update the record after it's committed. So time-wise, it takes a little bit longer, but also isn't as efficient. So that's why you don't really want to use it on updating the same record. You want to use it for updating kind of related records and other things. Right. And then we have platform events. I don't do too much of this at all. I did it kind of in my last org. It's basically, if you want something to happen just whenever and not affect the flow itself, you would create a platform event. So on a flow, it wouldn't be before save, but an after save flow, I would kind of do a sub flow or an action that creates or runs a platform event. So I think they call it as running asynchronously. So rather than running the same time as this flow runs, it creates a separate event that will run whenever there's time or processing power but it has no effect on this flow. So this would still update the contact record. And if my platform event fails, it doesn't affect updating my contact record. So it's also kind of nice in that way that it has no impact immediately. And then it'll run, if I have a lot of automation, it'll run without affecting kind of the current automation running. The one thing is you just have to create a flow for a platform event that then gets triggered, and then it triggers the platform event. So it's kind of a 2 steps of, adds an extra flow that you otherwise wouldn't necessarily need, but it prevents like big failures if you have, a ton of things happening. Like, let's look at one of my older flows. Yeah, so my old contact flow used to be a lot bigger. All right, so I have a bunch of various things happening. Like these 2 tasks, if one of these tasks fail, then the entire flow fails and nothing else runs. So rather than putting them in here, I could just do a platform event that runs separately and doesn't affect this flow. So the rest of this will still run even if this would fail. So it's not something a lot of people use, but it is super effective if you are able to use it and know how to. And then record trigger orchestrator is similar to a record trigger flow, but this is a lot bigger. So it is usually an entire business process. So let's say you want to onboard a new employee. So whenever HR creates, a new employee record, it would launch this orchestration flow. It creates different tickets for, the IT team to create their email logins, and it creates a ticket for me to create the Salesforce login. So it allows us to do all these things kind of at the same time, and then only move to the next step if it's completed. So like it would send an email to the individual who got hired saying, hey, here's your login information on your first day, and so forth. Not too many people use this either, mainly because you get like 600 runs for free. And then after that, it's $1 per run. So large organizations will use it because it is super effective for automation and multi-departmental, steps. But being a single admin, I don't necessarily use this much at all, which is fine. The one other thing, which we'll kind of pass this off to Magesh, is a triggering a composer flow from Salesforce. So in this one, I have on my contact object, if the run MuleSoft composer description flow was true, it will then update the contact record that is running, updates the description, and then marks the checkbox as false. So again, it's similar to what I was doing with the before and after save flows, but it runs through MuleSoft. So this will kind of gateway to Magesh, but then also how I trigger the big integration that I've been working on is basically from a Salesforce flow as well. So it saves, but then you have to refresh to show the MuleSoft update. Sometimes takes a second. It worked when I tested this morning, but live demos.
Yep.
You're good for that. Okay, there it goes. So it does take a second to run because it's going to MuleSoft, processing through MuleSoft, and then updating Salesforce. So it unchecked the box and then updated this to say it was updated by MuleSoft Composer Flow. So I will go ahead and stop sharing and pass to Magesh, who will now cover a bit about Composer Flows.
Awesome. It's great to see also how Salesforce Flows work. That's the name, right? Salesforce Flows?
Yeah, or like Lightning Platform Flows,
Yeah, I hadn't.
Salesforce loves to change the name every so often, so it's a always a work in progress.
All right.
I guess I should ask if anyone has any questions prior on Salesforce flows before we move over.
Not yet.
Okay,
Maybe at the end we'll have more questions, but yeah, it's. I
sounds
think
good.
it's one of the first times that I see that, so that's awesome to see. I hadn't tried that out, and
Yeah,
I think platform events you can also use them with MuleSoft integrations, so
yeah,
that's also cool.
yeah. They can be platform events can be triggered from outside events, so it's kind of also like somewhat of a listener. So I
Yeah,
know a lot of people use it for that as well.
yeah. Alrighty, let's see Megash's demo now.
Yeah, so I would be just giving a brief overview about what are these composer flows, and also one of the composer flow which I had created for India Remain. If you are very active on LinkedIn, then I think in May I had posted a informative video about how I had actually integrated like Composer and RP and automated the entire ticket booking process for one of the Dreamin events in India. So I would also be going through that. But before that, what Andrew had actually demoed you was are the automations that are present in the Salesforce platform, right? These are called lightning flows or Salesforce lightning flows. So before these lightning flows, we had two different kind of automations. We are called workflow rules, and also the other one was process builders. Now, eventually, Salesforce moved down to these lightning flows, and these two are being rolled out. So whatever you implementations you have for the workflow rules and for the process builders, they can be automated using these lightning flows. Now there are another set of automations which is this composer flows, right? And also the flows which the mule application, right? The using anypoint platform, so that is also an automation. And the another automation is MuleSoft RPA, which is a UI based automation. Now whatever you see for the composer is basically an application that is deployed automatically by MuleSoft for you on any point platform, right? Not any point platform, but on Cloud Hub. So everything is managed for you. So for you as an admin, you just have to use your cursor, enter out some details using keyboard, and that's it. So within minutes, you build out this entire application. Now using Anypoint platform, first you had to design your APIs, right? You design your APIs, you write raml code or open API specification, take feedbacks, then move down to the build phase, use the connectors, and then depending upon the business apply some policies and then deploy on the customer hosted mule runtime or on your cloud hub or anywhere you if you want, wherever this mule runtime can run. So over here, what we will be going through is the current, like what are these composer flows and what are the flavors of composer flows. Now, if there are two flavors of composer flow, one is you can install it as a managed package on your Salesforce production instance, right? So there is no concept of sandboxes uh, while using the composer flows. You have to directly install it on your production or only once. Now there are multiple scenarios where companies go on acquiring, and if both the companies are using Salesforce, then there are some questions like, do we have to install the composer on both the production instances? No, but you just have to install it in one of the production instances and you are all set to go and automate these business processes. Now the view which you are viewing right now is a composer standalone instance. Now this is an entire different composer flow application, like from you log in through composer.mulesoft.com. Now for the Salesforce one, the view is entirely like this. Now this is a trailhead simulator. If you are going through that the trailhead badges or composer, then you must have come across this trailhead simulator. So over here, it is installed as a managed package as said. So you just have to go and click on composer. Now for this is currently not the updated view, but we do have the templates enabled over here. the view what you see in this and the view what you see in this is not, the UI is not similar, but the functionalities are pretty much the same. Now, another thing, if you are installing it in your production instance, many people would be thinking about that it would access their production or data, which is, if you know, it is very precious to the clients and all the organizations, right? But Composer won't do that until and unless you want it to make it happen. So many people use Composer as a package, a managed package, or use it as a standalone instance. Now, this is called Composer Flow, and this is your MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce. Like they have termed it like that, or Salesforce for Composer Flow. I'm not able to remember the name properly, but this is what they have termed it. Now, over here again, what I would do, I'll go to flows, and as Andrew mentioned, we have so many different uh, types of flows in Salesforce, right? But over here, the things are a bit different. Now you can create a composer flows right from scratch. Otherwise, you can use also templates. Now the concept of templates are also present in Lightning flows. So if you want to make a case automation in the Salesforce platform, there are templates, you can directly use them. Similarly, we do have it in MuleSoft Composer, but these templates are a bit different as they interact with external systems like Jira or NetSuite, right? So over here, I'm creating a new flow. We we have two different kind of options. One is a system event, and another one is the scheduler. Now, the scheduler is basically if you want to run your Composer flow periodically, although it is not that flexible like how Lightning flows are. We can schedule it like around 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon or 1:45 p.m. But over here, if suppose I schedule it right now at 10 p.m., then tomorrow 10 p.m. late night it would run. So you don't have that kind of flexibility. So after my demo, Andrew would actually mention you how you can overcome this challenge by using Lightning flows and Composer flows together, and it is very, the solution is very lightweight and easy to manage. So going forward with the system event, now these are the connectors that are already provided by Salesforce, right? So we do have Gmail connector, BigQuery connector, Marketo, and RPA as well as for Ana and so what are the system events is basically whatever operations that are performed in an external system. Let me take an example of Salesforce that would help you to understand the scenario much better. Now in Salesforce, if suppose I create a lead, now I want that lead to be also sent to an external system. Now there are many companies, they have this lead assignment rule, not inside the Salesforce, but they calculate it outside the Salesforce using AI based automations as well, and they calculate it and then they send it to the Salesforce where the lead would actually be assigned to a particular user or to a salesman. Now, if I go to Salesforce, first we do have to set up a connection between your Salesforce instance and your and a composer. Right now, you see I have so many connections built between. This is not only one instance, but I can build out multiple instances, right? I can build it the connection between sandbox and my composer, or from production or to a composer. I have just have to click on plus icon, enter out the name. Now if you're using this using a sandbox, click on this, so it will redirect you to test.salesforce.com. If not, then it will redirect you to the login.salesforce.com. Enter out the credentials, and between between a second or a minute, you have integrated your composer and your Salesforce platform. Now once you have done that, okay let okay, so this is about the system event. Now under the system event, you cannot the composer cannot monitor or poll the external system actions continuously, right? So it's not real time, but it's near real time. So in the interval of 10 seconds or so, it polls out the external system, understand if the change has happened or not. If the event has take place, then only the composer flow would trigger. Now, okay, I would again go with the Salesforce example. I will use one of the connection which had already been created. Now in this, I tell my composer that you need to trigger whenever this particular action has occurred in my Salesforce org, right? So these are the set of actions. Now for each connector there are set of actions. If you want to know about what kind of actions Salesforce composer, MuleSoft composer currently supports, you can go to the documentation part where it is very well documented what are the actions, and when you can trigger, how you can send data, like to send data to external system, what the action, what kind of actions are supported. You can also view about all of these details in the documentation. Right now I say that this composer flow should trigger whenever I create a new lead record. Now whatever you see over here is a metadata, right? Metadata in the sense my custom objects or standard objects or whatever objects that are present in my Salesforce instance. Now in the background we all know this actually uses Salesforce metadata API, with the help of which we can view what kind of objects are present in my composer, in my Salesforce platform. Now I see that I'll go with the lead. Now, again, I say that whenever a new lead is created in my Salesforce, I want to trigger. Now, I don't want my composer flow to trigger every now and then for each and every lead, right? I want that you need to trigger whenever a particular lead. If suppose I say this lead is a VIP, right? So it's a very big, like, the company is suppose are operating in billions of rupees. Now I want that I need to have a special care of this kind of lead because it would bring business to my organization, right? And now what I would do is I would just can make set some conditions, right? So generally companies set identify the leads as what are the turnover business. Then they would have that is VIP flag set on that particular lead, right? So I can set that conditions as well. Right now what I haven't created that, but what I would do, I would use this converted as right now, right? But converted, what does it mean? Now, it means that if this lead is converted or not. Right now, according to the business scenario, I want that this composer flow should trigger when this lead is created is a VIP customer, right? He is a very big entity to me. So based upon this, if suppose I create a new lead who is a VIP, right, who is a very big customer, then I would run this composer flow. Now, if suppose tomorrow a small company comes, this flow would not run. So accordingly, you can set multiple conditions, right? Not only with Salesforce connector, but with all the other connectors that are provided by Salesforce out of the box. Now I can then set up some conditions. Right now again, you have two different set of options. One is the logical ones and another one is sending out the data to an external system. Now with the external system, we see there are so many connectors available, like the Gmail, the Google Calendar. Like if suppose a lead is created, I want a salesperson to visit that person, right, to visit the VIP customer or the customer who is very important to me. Then based upon that, I can create a Google Calendar invite and send out to the salesperson and also to the lead, and then they can have an interaction between each other, right? So these are out of the box connectors that are available in my composer flow. So we can see we do have connector for Microsoft Teams, HubSpot, uh, BigQuery, Jira, Marketo, and all, right? We do have a connector for RPA as well, and Snowflake, Slack, and all of the systems that that have APIs exposed, right? Now, what kind of APIs? Now, there are also a set of APIs like for RESTful APIs and also for SOAP APIs. So currently, Composer only support the REST APIs, and if you're not able to find the external system connector present in this flow, so what you can do is you can simply use the HTTP connector. You can make, create some connections. You can enter out the details like what kind of authentication mechanism it supports, then what kind of header parameter it supports, and based upon that you can also interact with the external system. Now you need to also make sure that the external system sends the data in a JSON format and not in an XML format, right? So we need to take care of that. HTTP connector only supports APIs, RESTful APIs that returns JSON response. So just be careful of that. Rest all, you can use this HTTP connector quite fluently. Now, this is about your system event, that is sending out data to an external systems, right? Now there are many questions as well. Now, while using lightning flows, we do have a debug option where once we debug it, the entire transaction rolls back. So whatever changes you have made for the record in that flow is not committed to the database, right? But we don't have it in the composer flows, because these are an external system, right? Composer is just managing, like sending out the data, retrieving the data, processing it, and then sending out the data, right? So there is no concept of rollback over here as well. So so again, coming back, there are these are the system event, that means sending out data to an external systems, right? Now the other set of actions are if else, for each, and error handler. Now error handler is pretty much new, and it was introduced in this April. It's still in beta phase, so there may be sometimes issues while using it, but most of the time it works like a charm. So for if else, it works exactly the same as how we have in a programming language like Apex or Java, right? If condition is true, execute this set of actions, else execute another set of actions. Now we do have ladder if, like if, else if, and last else, right? We do have it. Now, for each is you suppose you want to retrieve a set of contacts that are present in my another Salesforce instance, right? Now, I mentioned previously, many companies not only use one Salesforce instance, but they do use two or three different set of Salesforce instances according to the location or according to how the business is run, right? Now, they would be using one for some kind of selling some gears, another for selling some different kind of gears in a different location altogether, right? In a different location, like from EMEA or in Epic and all and such. So when we retrieve record, now this is also a new feature that was made available in May. Andrew can correct me on this. So I think we do have this feature for Salesforce and NetSuite connector as of now, but what it is all about is the get records. Now, whenever you get records, you don't particularly fetch a record, but you particularly fetch a list of records. Now, even if you want to fetch a record, you enter some details, and you know that it is only one record, but you would return, but the connector would return you a list of records and not only one record, right? And for such scenario, I would be using a for each loop in order to access the data that is present in that list, right? So you can simply relate it to an array concept which we have it in programming language, right? If like array 1 comma 2 comma 3, and then you can use the for loop, and inside for loop we access it using indexes, right? You don't have to hard code anything, just use the for each loop. Then then you have to just specify what is the list of records you want this for each loop to loop over, and you can access the record like in particular iteration. So this is how for each loop runs. Now I was talking about this new feature as well. So I want to access an account. Now, there the you can see there are 71 fields that are present under this account, right? Now, as a best practice, you need to only retrieve the fields that are more relevant for you in this particular composer flow. So you can also set out the conditions like to identify the record, right? If suppose I want to retrieve a record which is a VIP customer in my another Salesforce instance, I want to find out that is the customer who is coming in as a lead exist as a contact in my another Salesforce instance, right? For my another product which I am selling on another location, right? So with the help of this, I can identify the records. Now, once identified, I can see that there is an option called all records that would retrieve a list of records and return me a list. And I can only fetch a record, right? Only one record. I am very sure that only one record of this particular instance exists in my Salesforce, right? So we need to use this options very smartly. Now, coming back to the all records, and uh, go to plus, and I'll show you for each loop. Now in for each loop, you can see it only accepts a list, right? So I would specify, see, a list of account. Now you need to also look for the integer numbers. If suppose your composer flow is very large, because we don't have the concept of auto launch flows. So many people are very new to the Salesforce platform as well, or they may have forgot about what are auto launch flows. So instead of building out one flow altogether, we segregate them using auto launch flows. So this auto launch flows actually give you the benefit of reusability, right? So not only we can use a particular set of actions in one of my business process, but I can use them in multiple business process. Now, if you are very active on LinkedIn, I must recommend you go and follow Andrew, who shares his knowledge about flows and how is segregating and distributing a monolithic flow which he had previously built, or he had some implementation present, and distributing it across multiple auto launch flows, right, making it more lightweight. So we don't, as said, we don't have the concept of reusability, right? We can't make uh, three different types of flows and then call another flow in each flow. No, we can't do that, right? So the composer sometimes just goes on large, and like it becomes huge and huge, right? In order to know what is like which is the one you want, which is the data, like the data of which connector you want right now, I want that this the list of records from this particular connector, right? The result, you can see there is a number written 2, so you can easily reference the number as well. I can see 2 and a list of accounts, so see it, so I can loop it over. And similarly, I would talk about error handler. Now, error handler, as said, it's very new and it's in beta phase. So in beta phase, sometimes it may run accordingly, and sometimes, very rarely, it won't accordingly. But uh, it's still in. You need to be careful when using it as of now. So over here as well, it's very similar to the try catch block which you have in Java or in Apex. Try and then catch, right? So we can catch a generic exception, or we can catch a particular type of exception as well. Now over here we have watch block. You can relate it to a try block, right? In the try block, I would simply put out some connectors or some set of actions which you have encountered that they throw error sometimes for some of the business use cases, right? So you can enter, you can actually fill in these with a set of actions, right? So for my use case, let me for randomly, I can select Salesforce, and again I will go with the specialist, and I'll go create records, right? So over here right now, I filled in my watch block. I have this particular element which is retrieving a set of records, right? Or retrieving, or you can also would create or any set of actions which according to your business use case is throwing an error for some of the use cases. Now this on error block would catch that event. Now this also catches based upon what kind of settings you have set it over here. Now, if you can see the conditions to run this branch, right? So over here, I simply set when this error block would catch the error based upon what kind of error, right? Now, suppose I am using 3 to 4 different connectors over here, one for NetSuite, Jira, or Salesforce, right? If suppose my NetSuite throws an error, I want to execute a particular set of actions when NetSuite throws an error. I want to execute another set of actions when Salesforce throws an error, right? So you can also segregate this on error block based upon that conditions. Now, once you have segregated your on error block, like when you should run the set of actions. If suppose NetSuite throws an error, then I want this on error block to particularly catch NetSuite errors and then execute the set of actions, right? Now, if you see in the after running block, we do have two different set of options, that is continue and stop. Now, if you know more about MuleSoft Anypoint platform, we do have two different kinds of error mechanism, right? One is the on error continue and on error propagate. On error continue would basically gracefully handle the error and would execute the set of actions that are present in my parent flow, right? But honor propagate would not do that. Honor propagate would basically stop the execution of that flow there itself, right? So this is the two different kind of error we have, like continue and stop. So this is all about like what are the set of options we do have when building out a composer flow. Now, what I would show you is this is the composer flow which I had very previously using MuleSoft RP and the composer. Right now, I had mentioned that I built out this automation and it was also shared by MuleSoft community LinkedIn page. Now over here, if you see, I have created a connection between my composer and my Google Sheet, right? And the mechanism goes the very same. I will show you one by one. So over here, what I did was I went out to system event. Now this is the trigger. I specify when this composer flow should run. Over here, I entered. I clicked on the Google Sheet. Now in the Google Sheet, you see I have three different kind of connections already created. You can either create or use an existing one. Now if I click on NTO Google Sheet, right? So over here, I have this is the way we create connection between composer and a Google Sheet, right? So I did the very same thing over here. Now once created connection, you have this set of actions, like I want this composer flow to trigger when I insert a new data in my Google Sheet, or I create a new spreadsheet, or I update a row in my Google Sheet, right? So then I specify the spreadsheet, what kind of spreadsheet, like what spreadsheet it should monitor, right? And then what in spreadsheet as well, we have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, right? Then I specify that a new sheet, right? You need to monitor the specific sheet, which is sheet 1. Now once I have done that, I so my composer would actually trigger and fetch the data, whatever data I have entered. Now we can see for the sample ones, the city is set as Ahmedabad, contact number, country, email, emergency contact number, and all those fields were actually present in the form which we have to fill while booking out the ticket for the event. Now once this composer flow triggers, what I do over here is, now as I showed you, there is also a connector for MuleSoft RPA over here. So we can see there is a connector for MuleSoft RPA. Now for this connector, so we can see I have already created this connection, right? I can simply use it. So if not, if you're creating a new connection, what you have to do is enter the name for your for you to identify the RPA connection. Once you have done that, then you have to copy out the format which is written over here, right? So we can see we have this format, and you can simply copy paste it from the URL while you're using your RPA when you have the access to RPA. Then once you have done that, you have to simply create a user API key in your RPA instance. Now not your entire RPA bot process would be available. There are two kind of run configurations you have to create when using MuleSoft RPA. One is a create run configuration, which basically means that you want your RPA to trigger periodically, right? I want my RPA bot process to trigger when it is night 8 p.m. or morning 8 a.m., right? This we create a run configuration. Now another set of run configuration is create invocable run configuration. Now in the create invocable run configuration is where I can trigger this RPA bot process, right? Not only while you create a invocable run configuration, you can trigger it from composer, but you can also trigger it from your anypoint platform as well as from the Salesforce lightning flows. Now for the lightning flows, I'm not sure on this, but while you have created this run configuration and you have connected your RPA instance with your anypoint platform, while you publish your RPA bot to anypoint platform exchange, there is an API created, right? And while using Salesforce, you have a certain services called external services, right? A feature in Salesforce, while you can make a call out to an external web service right from your lightning flows. So this is how you can trigger your RPA bot process not only from lightning flows but from Composer and from Anypoint platform after you have created a invocable run configuration, right? So similarly, I had created a invocable run configuration in my RPA manager. Once I have done that, so we can see I have named it as RSVP to Salesforce Community Events RPA bot, right? So another thing, you can only create one invocable run configuration if I'm not wrong. Now, again, and more the composer part. So in the composer, these are the activity parameters that I create in my RPA bot. Now these activity parameters are by default provided by Salesforce, right? When you create a connection between your RPA bot and your composer. So these are by default available. Now activity parameters are basically like variables, right? How you have it in your mule flow, like where's your dot. So similarly, this is like activity parameters we call in RPA bot. So I basically pass the data that was fetched by my composer right from the Google sheet, right? When I enter new data in my Google sheet. Now I see these are the raw data, these are the data pills. Now I provide the data to my RPA bot. Now what my RPA bot would do is open out the India driven web page in my India Driven web page in the incognito mode, fill out the details, and then that's it. Then you have to enter out everything like the payment details and everything. And then once we have done that, I send out a message to my Slack channel informing that see we have successfully done this RPA. This RPA flow is successfully executed, just informing me about this. So this is how I use Composer Flow with my RPA bot as well. So that's all from the Composer part of it. So should I? So Andrew, you want to take it from here?
I have two
Yeah.
questions though before we wrap up that. So, is there a way to create custom connectors for Composer? Because I saw that you had like Gmail, I don't know, NetSuite or stuff like that. And what if I want to create another connector? How can I do that?
No. So how we do have it in Mule Anypoint platform, right? We can create custom connectors. We can't create it for Composer. So whatever connectors that are provided by Salesforce, you have to use them. So if not, if you're not able to use them, then you can simply use the HTTP connector over here, right? Now, as said, if suppose you are like you the external application needs to have a REST API service as well. In it needs to send the data in a JSON format. So you need to be careful about that. If you want to still interact with an external system that that sends a SOAP API service or and it sends that data, it sends a response in XML format. So what you can do is you can create a connection between your Composer and an Anypoint platform. You can build out this implementation in Anypoint platform, and then once you have done that, your Composer can interact with the connector which you have created, like make a call out to the Anypoint platform, do the set of actions, and again the flow would come back to your Composer flow. This is how you can also create the you can automate the business processes.
Okay. And my other question was, can we use data weave in Composer?
Yeah, we do use data weave. It is not that powerful as how we do have it in Anypoint platform, right? We're building out the Mule applications. These are very generic page, like for string operations. If I can show you over here, I'll do with Slack, and Slack, I'll go here and post a message to a channel, and the message I can see a custom expression present over here. Now if you see, this is not I had actually raised this as I had created an idea in the ideas exchange for giving more set of actions while using it, right? So we can't process complex data in my Composer. For complex data processing, Anypoint platform is the best go-to option, right? So these are very minimal ones. As said, this is not for your complete automation. This is for your business automation, right? Automating the business use cases. Now, if you see, these are the set of functions that are provided out of the box by MuleSoft Composer, right? You can only use them. Now you can not use the other data view operations that are not present in this list. If otherwise, it would basically consider it as a string and would not actually parse out the data view expression what you have written.
Hmm. I see. Alrighty, those were my questions. Thank you.
So over to you, Andrew.
All right. I'll reshare my screen.
Also, just for people watching, we're gonna take a little bit more time. So if you want to stick around, that's fine. If you have to leave, that's all right. We have our recordings in Twitch. So thank you all if you have to leave. We'll continue now. Thank you, Shanks.
Yeah, no worries. So I've built this process that works in both Salesforce Flow to then activate a composer flow. This is to get our veterinary records from our third-party integration, but I want it to run at a very specific time of day, one that's a little like less busy, but we do have records that are created basically 24/7 because you can create records online that then connect to our EasyVet platform. So I was running into this issue of if I have it kind of individually running in MuleSoft, I get contacts first, and then animals, and then appointments, and then invoices, and then tags. And I need it to run in a very specific order because I have to have the contact created in order to reference it at the animal. I need both animal and contact created to reference for the appointment and the invoice, and then also for tags. And so if I'm running them separately in Composer, one might start while the other's still running. So I won't have all of my contacts in the system in order to reference it for animals, invoices, appointments, and all those other things. So I only want to start bringing in one data point after the other has finished. So it's kind of I needed a lot of control, and I wasn't able to get that through scheduling in Composer. So I made this flow, which I showed earlier. It's just the scheduled flow. And all it does is for EasyVet contacts on my custom objects, which is this checkbox, it just sets it to be true. So that kicks off this entire process in Composer. So, right, if this runs and it is my MuleSoft URL record, then it kicks off this Salesforce automation, which just turns off some backend on-off switch I have to prevent other errors from happening, because we use the nonprofit starter pack or success pack. So a bunch of other roll-ups happen in the background that I don't want to run when I'm doing this because it caused errors. So I turn them off. And then I will get all my contacts. So this is just, again, kind of high level because, there's 32 steps in here of kind of all these loops and all these if-elses that I don't want to get into because it can be a little confusing. But feel free, if you have questions, happy to answer them. So I start by saying if the EasyVet context is true, which will happen from my flow, checks this. So then this runs, it gets all the contacts, it gets contact details, and this is all using HTTP callouts. So to get contacts, it's 3 separate callouts through EasyVet, which is also really annoying, but to each their own. So I go through, I get the contact, I get their phone numbers and emails, and then I also get their address, and then either create or update records accordingly. And then at the very end, I'm updating the Salesforce record again to say, I want to put EasyVet contacts as false, and I want get animals as true. So whenever that happens, then my next step fires off. So I have all my contacts, everything's come in, great. I now go and get all my animals, same thing runs, I try to find a contact, create the animal or update the animal, and then I turn off or uncheck the get animals and check get appointments. So then the next step runs, looks for contacts and animals, creates appointment if it finds both, unchecks appointments, checks invoices. So now my get invoices box is true. Same thing, gets contact, gets animal, creates invoice, And this is all running off the same like last 24 hours. So I had to create a URI timestamp using a just a website for URI converters, which is all this fun stuff. And then it has a Unix timestamp in here for 10 p.m. yesterday. So then it gets all the invoices with that specific timestamp. Again, because if I start this at 10 o'clock, I might have a invoice that's created at 10:05 that I don't have the contact for. So otherwise I'm going to miss that invoice altogether. And it's never going to come in because I only look for the last 24 hours. So the way of giving me control is by controlling it with Salesforce fields that then trigger MuleSoft Composer processes. And last thing, it runs for tags, which is great. And then I turn my automation back on at the very end. So my on-off switch is turned on again. So that is kind of one way. It gives you a little more control on when it runs and in what order it runs, because that's what I needed in order to make sure I got all of the data into our systems on a daily basis. It is probably a bit more complex than your average processes, but it's allowed me the flexibility to get all of our data with a high reliability and get it in the order I need it at the time I need it.
All right. I think that is the most complex thing that I've seen in Composer.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it during this presentation as well. Like, I had a bunch of invoices fail. So I had to create a admin log, which is a custom object if it fails. So like, how Magesh was talking about the error handling, I had to create a new record so I can see what the error was. So I had a bunch of errors because I deleted a field yesterday that I didn't know it was using. Hooray for sandbox testing. At least it didn't mess up production, right? So I'm like, okay, this field doesn't exist anymore. So now I have to make sure that I'm not using it and then refresh the fields for that process so it doesn't continue to look for it when I've deleted it. So I'm like, but now I don't have any of these invoices that were supposed to run yesterday. So now I need to add one more if that's like, all right, if I miss this or if something fails, I need to go back and get a single record. I can do that. Or if I need to go back and run all of like yesterday's invoices, I can do that as well. So creating some like contingencies for this process will be kind of the next steps.
That is very interesting. I would love to see what you all come with. And I didn't know that the error handling was in beta version either, but that's great. I learned something new.
Yeah, and so like in practice, right, I have it starting on step 75, and it's watching everything from there on. So this get records where I'm seeing if the invoice already exists. If it doesn't, then I'm like getting my records and creating the invoices because I don't want to create duplicates. And so it goes from step, all the way to step 88. And then 89 is that error handling where I want it to continue to run because I don't want it to fail and like mess everything else up that's supposed to come. And then I create my admin log based on that error.
That
so
is
it's tracking
awesome.
like 15 or 13 steps. So if any of that fails, it still continues to go. I can get the details I want. I can add more error handlers in here. So I have it doing all records, but if I wanted only the first record, I would need an error handler just for this one get, because if a single record doesn't exist, it would error out. So you need to be sure if you're only getting that first record, it actually exists. Otherwise, it's going to error and kind of fail everything else after it. So that's how you can see in practice how it would go.
Well, very well thought. I like it. And it's like you just thought out of the box, like you created your own logging system. That is great.
Yeah, I picked that up at my old org. they had it something like that. So, because the Salesforce flow errors only give you so much. So having my own like login system, I can see all the related records. If it's like opportunity, account, contact, animal, like whatever else, I can link that. But then I can also get specific messaging and email myself with that specific messaging, to get flow error details and so on.
Yeah. You should create a blog post like how to create your own logging system for Composer. I'm sure a lot of people will watch that.
That's a great idea. I'll take you up on that.
I would wonder
Alrighty.
which screenshots Andrew can add to that blog.
Yeah.
Perfect. So is that all, or do you still have some more stuff to go through?
That is, I think, all we have on tap for today, right, Mikesh?
I just wanted to make one small announcement.
Yeah.
So, this for this year, we would be having the very first Mule Remain event, which is happening in India. So I would just, Alex, share you the URL. If you can add it, the website link in the comments section, then that would be great. So if you're getting started in Salesforce, if you're getting started in MuleSoft, or else if you are an experienced person, you know about MuleSoft, you don't know about MuleSoft, but then this is a best platform or the best event to attend, where you can learn more about MuleSoft, Salesforce, interact with MVPs, ambassadors, ambassadors as well. So it's all good points to attend the Mule Driven event. So you can just, for details, you can just go to the website, which you can see in the comment section. Go to the website, and soon there will be tickets launch. The booking process will be launched, so you can also book the tickets and don't miss the event. There are uh, so many give outs in the session, right? You can learn so many things. That's all.
You got your own domain and everything. That's awesome.
So I'm a volunteer for that event, but there are a couple of ambassadors as well in the event who is managing, and some of the big names as well. So yeah.
So what big names? You can mention them so people know.
One is SFDC Panther, if you're knowing Amit Singh, then Shiva Sahu, who is an ambassador. We do have Aman Tiwari. Then, as an advisor, we have Apex Servers, which is Amit Chaudhary. Then, we have Gaurav Khetarpal as well as advisors. Then, as volunteers, we have Harshit, like he's one of the names in Salesforce ecosystem. Then, another volunteer I would add is Anurag. If you know, he's an ambassador, so he is also there. I am also there as a volunteer over there to make an event a grand success.
Awesome. And where did you say it was? In what part of
It's
India?
it would be in New Delhi.
Okay, awesome. So
So
don't miss
that,
it.
yeah, all the details are there in the website, so anyone can go there and stay tuned for more special updates. There are set of action plans, and all trust it would be an awesome event. And yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. So everyone in India or not in India who want to go to New Delhi, you can just go to muledreaming.com, check it out, and you can volunteer also with Megesh if you want. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I guess that would be it. We were only like 8 minutes past, so that's not bad. Well, thank you so much, Shanks and Magesh. I learned a lot. I hope all of the other people watching also learned a lot. And I will look forward for that article, Shanks. Just let me know. All
I'll
right.
get on that.
So I hope you enjoyed coming on your first live stream, and feel free to schedule more if you feel like it. I am glad that I had you both here. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Alrighty. So that's all for this live stream. Everyone watching, remember to follow us at twitch.tv/MuleSoft_community. There you have our previous recordings, our schedule for the future live streams, and you will also receive notifications as soon as we are live. Rajesh is saying, please mention the event URL. Yes, we did. It's muledreaming.com. It's on the comments, and I also put it here on the screen. So thank you, though, Rajiv. All right, so that's all then for this live stream, and I will see you on Thursday, June 8th at this time. And that's all. Thank you both. All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.